Michigan International Speedway is not a track that forgives mistakes. It is a 2-mile superspeedway where Cup Series cars regularly exceed 200 miles per hour without the aid of restrictor plates. Unlike Daytona or Talladega, where plate racing keeps the field bunched and speeds artificially managed, Michigan is full power from green flag to checkered. Teams run their engines wide open. The banking is moderate, the straightaways are long, and the speeds cars carry into the corners are among the highest on the entire schedule. That combination of factors means that when something goes wrong at Michigan, it goes wrong at a velocity that very few other venues can match. The Firekeepers Casino 400 had already been a chaotic afternoon before lap 148 even arrived. A record-tying 10 caution flags had flown across the first half of the race, reflecting just how difficult conditions were all day. The field had just returned to green from one of those restarts when everything came apart. Christopher Bell was running near the front, on fresh tires, with a car fully capable of contending for a top finish. In a matter of seconds, none of that mattered anymore. On the lap 148 restart, Chase Elliott had pushed his Hendrick Motorsports teammate William Byron to the front. Elliott and Bell were immediately behind them, running side by side, both on fresh rubber, both pushing hard to gain track position before the field settled back into a rhythm. As they entered turn 3, Elliott committed to the inside lane. His number 9 Chevrolet got loose. The rear end stepped out, the car began sliding up the racing surface, and the right side of Elliott's machine made contact with Bell's number 20 Toyota. That contact was enough to completely redirect Bell's car. It turned him nose first toward the outside wall at close to a 45-degree angle, with almost no time to brake, steer, or react in any meaningful way. Bell hit the safer barrier at near full racing speed. The initial impact was immediately catastrophic, the nose of the number 20 was crushed, the car caught fire briefly, and the sheer force of the hit physically bent the outer wall inward. But the wreck was not finished. Elliott's car, still sliding, crossed back across the track and struck Bell a second time, this time on the driver's side door. The two cars bounced off one another before Elliott finally came to rest near the inside barrier. NASCAR Safer Barrier, a dual-wall system with foam between layers designed specifically to absorb this kind of energy, had taken so much force that the outer wall remained visibly bent after the crash. Crews had to physically come out onto the racing surface and make repairs before the race could resume. The red flag stayed out for more than 20 minutes. That single fact, that the wall itself needed to be fixed before racing could continue, became the defining image of how serious this moment truly was. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was on the call for Amazon Prime Video when the crash happened. He has spent decades around this sport, first as a driver, now as a broadcaster, and has witnessed more crashes than most people can count. His reaction was not scripted and it was not performed for the camera. When the dust settled and Bell's car came to rest against the damaged wall, Earnhardt told his broadcast audience that he wanted to give NASCAR significant credit for all of the safety development that has gone into modern tracks and modern race cars. Then he added the line that immediately spread across every NASCAR platform, that he did not know if anyone would ever watch a car hit a wall that hard and see the driver climb out and walk away. That is not a broadcaster reaching for drama. That is a man whose father died from a crash at Daytona in 2001, speaking from a place of genuine experience, telling millions of viewers in plain language that what he just watched was at the absolute outer limit of what he believed survivable. That quote set the tone for everything that followed. Both drivers climbed out of their cars without assistance. That is always the first thing fans look for, and both Bell and Elliott provided it. Elliott crossed the track and the two men embraced right there on the racing surface before walking together toward the infield care center, a moment that stood out in the middle of a Cup Series race that was still under red flag. Elliott was evaluated quickly, cleared by medical staff, and came back out to speak with reporters without hesitation. Bell's timeline was entirely different. He stayed inside the care center for close to an hour. When he finally came out, he exited through the back of the building, deliberately away from the media area. He turned down every interview request and did not speak publicly. In NASCAR, that kind of extended stay combined with deliberate media avoidance communicates something specific. Drivers who are fine come out and say they are fine. Drivers who are managing something more uncertain, or who have been advised to stay quiet until they know more, exit quietly and let their team speak for them. The fanbase picked up on it immediately. So did every reporter in the garage. It was Joe Gibbs who filled in the silence. The Joe Gibbs Racing team owner addressed reporters at his post-race press conference and confirmed what the extended care center stay had already suggested. Bell was dealing with injuries to his wrist and his ankle. Gibbs told the media that the plan was to get Bell home, make sure he had access to whatever medical evaluation he needed, and then wait on what those doctors found. He used the phrase, "we're going to have to wait," more than once across his comments, and that repetition is meaningful. When a team owner at that level, running one of the most successful organizations in the history of the sport, uses "wait" as the central word in a post-race injury update, it signals genuine uncertainty. There is no clean answer yet, and he knows it. Jeff Gluck of The Athletic was first to report the specific injury details publicly, and from there it spread rapidly through every NASCAR media outlet. Both the wrist and ankle will require further evaluation once Bell returns to North Carolina. Until those results come back, Joe Gibbs Racing does not have a definitive answer on the status of one of their most important drivers heading into the next race weekend. Chase Elliott did not avoid the cameras. After clearing the care center, he went directly to the Prime Video crew and gave a complete, unfiltered account of what happened from his perspective inside the cockpit. He stated clearly that he was physically fine and that the crash was entirely his responsibility. He explained that he was working the inside lane trying to take advantage of the fresh tires, entered the corner, and felt the car go free beneath him. In that instant he described mentally committing to a spin, accepting it as the likely outcome, before the car suddenly hooked back up and snapped hard to the right, directly into Bell. He told reporters he had already gone to Bell personally and apologized, and said he understood it was a significant impact for both of them but that Bell took the worst of it. He expressed genuine respect for Bell and confirmed he was relieved Bell was able to exit the car. The accountability Elliott demonstrated in that press availability was widely noted across the sport. There was no deflection, no blame redirected toward the track conditions or the restart timing. He identified it as his mistake, explained the mechanical sequence that caused it, and owned it completely. While Bell remained inside the care center, reactions from other drivers were filtering out through team radio. Brian Vickers got on his radio immediately after the crash and asked his team to let him know whether Bell was okay. Bubba Wallace's response was more unfiltered. His words, bleeped for the broadcast, conveyed genuine fear in real time, the kind of reaction that comes before a driver has had any time to process what he just watched. Kyle Larson had his own direct experience with the crash. He was struck by flying debris from Bell's number 20 during the incident sequence. His crew chief Cliff Daniels later identified the object as the right side window from Bell's Toyota. Larson told the team on radio that something had hit him in the roof area and that he was fairly certain it left a mark. Daniels confirmed what the debris was after reviewing the footage. When a crash generates enough energy to send a window flying far enough to strike a car running behind the wreck, it illustrates in concrete terms exactly how violent the original impact was. The context around Bell's season matters because he is not a driver coasting through a mid-tier year. He has been one of the most consistent performers in the Cup Series across the first half of 2026. He entered Michigan already locked into the playoffs, which is a reflection of the level he has sustained week after week since the season opened. He has been part of the championship conversation since the first few race weekends, contending regularly and running near the front at track after track. Before the lap 148 incident, he was positioned for a legitimate top finish at Michigan with the car and the tires to make it happen. All of that context makes the injury uncertainty more significant. Joe Gibbs Racing now has to monitor a situation that could affect not just Pocono Raceway the following weekend but potentially the rhythm Bell has built across the entire season. Injuries to a wrist and ankle are not automatically season-ending, but they are also not insignificant for a driver who spends hours gripping a steering wheel and working pedals at racing speed. The team has to be honest with themselves about what the evaluations show before making any commitments about the next race. Pocono Raceway is next on the schedule and it presents its own specific set of physical demands. It is a triangular track with 3 distinct corners, each with different banking angles and entry speeds, which puts varied load on a driver's hands and feet across the course of a full race. Bell is expected to be in the car for Pocono based on everything the team has communicated publicly, but that expectation is entirely conditional on what the medical evaluations in North Carolina reveal. If the doctors clear him without restriction, the team moves forward as planned. If the evaluation produces a different result, a fracture, a structural issue with the wrist, anything that raises a concern about his ability to manage the car safely at speed, then his availability becomes a genuine question. Joe Gibbs Racing has options if they need them, but replacing Bell in that car for even a single race weekend would carry consequences for the team's momentum, their setup direction, and Bell's own rhythm heading toward the playoff stretch. While all of this was unfolding in the infield, a race still had to be finished. Denny Hamlin won the Firekeepers Casino 400, and the manner in which he did it deserves its own recognition. He started the day at the back of the field after his team repaired damage to his pole-winning car before green flag. From there, Hamlin drove forward methodically, worked his way through the field, and took the lead on a lap 162 restart. From that point he was untouchable, pulling away by more than 10 seconds over the field by the finish. It was his third win of the 2026 season and his 63rd Cup Series win of his career, which places him in a tie with the late Kyle Busch on the all-time wins list. Hamlin honored Busch in victory lane, waving a flag in tribute. Eric Jones finished second, Bubba Wallace was third, Kyle Larson fourth, and Carson Hocevar rounded out the top five. Bell finished 31st, Elliott finished 32nd. Neither finishing position carries any meaning given what happened on lap 148. The points standings also shifted at Michigan. Tyler Reddick, who entered the weekend as the points leader, had a difficult afternoon of his own. He was collected in a separate incident when Carson Hocevar made contact with John Hunter Nemechek on a restart, triggering a chain reaction that sent Reddick into the inside wall. It ended his streak of consecutive top 5 finishes for 2026, which had been one of the defining statistical runs of his season. Reddick still holds the points lead, but the gap tightened. The standings across the board shifted with the chaos Michigan produced, and when Bell returns to competition, whether at Pocono or beyond, he will be doing so with an eye on where he stands relative to the drivers directly ahead of him in the championship picture. The NASCAR world is waiting on one answer right now, and everything else is secondary to it. How hurt is Christopher Bell? The evaluations will happen this week in North Carolina. The Joe Gibbs Racing medical team will get the full picture on the wrist and the ankle, and from there the team will make decisions. If the news is good, Bell gets back in the car at Pocono and the season continues. If the news is more complicated, JGR faces a set of decisions they would much rather not be making this deep into a season where Bell has been one of the sport's best. The crash at Michigan will be replayed and analyzed for a long time. The wall bent. The car caught fire. The driver walked out. And right now, that is the only thing that matters. If you have been following Christopher Bell's season and you want to stay on top of every update as it comes out of North Carolina this week, make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Hit the like button if this breakdown gave you the full picture on what happened at Michigan. It helps more NASCAR fans find the channel and keeps this kind of coverage coming every single week. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Bell suits up for Pocono? Subscribe and stay with us. This story is not done yet.